Oh, wait. Meeting of the
Hello.
Finance Standing Committee called to order at 10:33 a.m. on October 1st. Happy fall, y'all. Happy first of the month. Pay your whatever, rent, credit card bill, whatever it is you pay on the first of the month. Thanks everybody for being here. We have a relatively light agenda, but some heavy items on it. So hopefully it will not go quite as long as our last Finance Committee meeting. It was a doozy. All right. With that, we will have. Oh, there we go. We do have Alderwoman Finlayson. We'll have a roll call. Alderwoman Finlayson.
Present. Mr. Chair, the camera's not on for council chambers. Could we fix that, please?
Yeah, let's take a second while we get that fixed. Madeline is working it out. I'm just going to finish the roll call. Alderwoman O'Neill. Alderman Huntley is present. But we'll wait to get.
It seems to be working now.
Okay, excellent. And then moving on to approval of the agenda, is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Approval of the minutes from the September 17th Finance Committee meeting. Is there a motion for approval? Alderwoman Finlayson, could you offer a motion on that?
Move approval of the minutes from the September 17th meeting.
I will second it. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Motion carries. All right. We've really just got three pieces of legislation on our agenda today. Let's start with Market House. I'm sure this one will be nice and quick. So, I was going to turn it to Ms. Buckland for an update since our last meeting.
Yeah. So
And actually, maybe Alderwoman O'Neill, are you updated on what we requested after the last meeting? Okay, never mind. So just an update.
Yeah. So we have approached the Market House with the various requests that this committee and Economic Matters had raised. We had an initial exchange with them. We've just sent them a red line version. Sometimes I think it's easier to see that when you see it in writing of this is exactly how that would appear. That's been modeled after some of the language that's in some of the other city leases. And so we, at this point, are still then in that discussion over here's kind of more a concrete version of what that would actually mean. So my hope is then for your next Finance Committee meeting that we would have more back from that. But that exchange is relatively new because obviously that was a pretty recent discussion. So I don't really have an update. I'll ask that you guys hold for the moment till we finalize that discussion.
Sure. And then the question I just had for you is when we're talking about these negotiations, whether it's the lease getting initially written, I understand Ashley, Ms. Leonard is she's turning the terms into a legal document. Who is negotiating those terms?
So it's a good question. This is and just speaking from my own perspective, this is part of the reason why Central Services ended up being created, because there hasn't really been up to this point a body who was responsible writ large for leases and what are the terms and having consistency across them and follow up and the rest of that. And as you can appreciate, what that has meant is that there are a variety of city leases that, Matt has done an amazing job of corralling, what's the universe. When he first started, what I said to him is that I have two questions and they are in this order. The first one is, what am I looking at? And then the second one then is what's the plan after that? And so in this case, because that's a relatively new one, there end up being a variety of people who have some input. Moving forward, having Central Services be that point for those negotiations is the long-term vision, but that's not a reasonable expectation right out of the gate to have all of that history. So, so there end up being, folks like me, Matt, finance, others who, Corey Bradley from an insurance perspective or a risk perspective, various people who end up sort of getting consulted for what does this picture look like. I'm not sure that was a very satisfying answer, but
I appreciate you giving the answer, whether it's satisfying or not.
yeah, but I think it's important to differentiate between where are we now versus what is that long-term vision.
Yeah.
And those are slightly different things.
Thank you. It sounds like we don't have a whole lot of additional updates. Alderwoman O'Neill, you got any questions for city staff? Oh, I'm sorry, Alderwoman Finlayson, did you have a question?
Not so much a question, but a comment. It is very unfortunate that we have lost a person who was pivotal in negotiating all of these contracts for us. Our former city manager, Mike Malinoff, who had tremendous history with all of this going back 20 or 30 years, has been intricate in negotiating these agreements, bringing in various departments that were impacted. The staff that we have now is all very new staff, and it's all very foreign. We have 3 people heading this up who are all very new to the city. And so I think there must be some formal records or written documentation to show past practices, be it through the city manager or the former finance directors who have had an extremely long tenure with us, and even going back as far as the former director of central services. So there is a history, and the unfortunate part is that the current staff, Ms. Buckland, I know that you're trying to pull it all together, but there has been a history, and maybe you can call on some historical documents that will help to pave the way. Actually, Ms. Leonard has been around for quite a while and knows these contracts probably better than anyone. But we're not totally in the dark if we look at what history has presented itself.
Maybe another way to ask the question is, when the existing lease was negotiated, who was on the city side of the table? And if you don't know that, I could turn it over to these guys. I guess you all could answer it, but I'll give it first to Ms. Buckland.
I don't know the full answer to that. I do know that Ms. Leonard was on maternity leave at the time. So she was with the city, but her involvement in the initial writing was limited because she was out for part of that time.
Right. So could I ask one of you guys to come up to the table?
Hey.
Yeah.
Hi,
And
everyone. Jody Danik, partner at Market House.
do you mind, do you have the mic on?
I believe I do. Yep.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
So, if I remember correctly, Ashley was involved in the very beginning, and then she left, and it was picked up by the city attorney at the time, which was, I'm sorry. Nope, it was,
The Leahy,
no, it was the gentleman that had been here for very long before that. He had been the assistant, just Gary, yep,
Yeah.
Gary
Gary Elson.
Ellison,
Yes.
yep, Gary
Yeah.
Ellison.
Gary Ellison.
So that's when, and we also had several city council members, alder people involved in it as well. I remember sitting around the table maybe with Alderman Finlayson and I think Alderman Arnett was in on it. And one person. But I think the new city manager touches on a very good point, and Alderman Finlayson does, is that the history of all of this is sort of being lost, and the hurdles that needed to be overcome in order to reopen Market House were substantial. And for 10 years, Market House was left empty and decaying in the very middle of our city. And it was, sad for everyone. So there's a lot of history there involved. I guess we could go into it if you have more questions about it too.
I don't want to spend too much time without having updates, but I do have one question. Oh, well, I see Alderman Finlayson has a question, so I'll let you go first.
Well, I would just like to, and Jody touched on it. We took bids for the Market House. We didn't just give it to a vendor, but we had a genuine competitive process. And during that process, I believe, and Mr. Danek, you could correct me if I'm wrong, we outlined what we wanted to see in the Market House. And the lease agreement that we ended up with was a combination of the negotiations, the bidding process, and then the selection of this particular vendor who was willing to do what we needed to do in our Market House. So I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that there was a competitive process. And I think there were 3 bidders, if I remember correctly. And so what we ended up with was what we asked for. So we should be clear on that. So not a question, just a comment. Thank you.
Good. Yeah. And I think from what I've heard from other members of the council, and if I can speak for myself, we love what you guys are doing down there. That's not in question here. My question to you was going to be, one of the, I think, sticking points is sort of under what conditions can we go to another 5 years, right? Under the current lease, it is, the Market House LLC holds the options, but the city has to approve. Can you describe how that matters to your business and why you all have a particular preference one way or the other around how those renewals work?
I'm Keith Bouchard. My wife Michelle is one of the 3 partners with Jody and Joe Lyon. So we need to have some visibility on our future so that we can invest in the property. Is the bottom line, right? So, if we are beholden to the 5-year renewal process, going before the city, having all the comments and et cetera, and during political seasons, it becomes complicated. We lose that visibility and we can't invest long term. I think we've demonstrated for the past several years that we ran through COVID, of course. That was a little bit of a hiccup for everybody, but we survived that and came out of it strong. And I think we've done what we needed to do to bring life back to the Market House and back to market space and the greater downtown City Dock area, number one. Number two is, we really want to be, like we said right from the beginning, the living room of the city, right? So we want to make it accessible to all residents of the city at all price points. We're not trying to compete with the top end restaurants in the city at all. We're trying to bring back life to the Market House, and to do that, we need to invest more and more and more into the building. We've invested several $100,000 so far. We just put in a new floor. We're going to need to paint the inside and the outside of the building again. We're going to need to completely gut and renovate the bathrooms and the storage rooms that surround the bathrooms. That's a major expense. We'll need to enhance and build out the storage facilities on the City Dock side that currently exist. We also will need to continue to maintain the HVAC system. As part of the contract was to put a service contract in there that has significant expense to it. We are looking to renovate and restructure the kitchen to make it able to grow with increased demand. you know, our revenues have increased by about 30% a year since COVID, for the, 5 years since COVID. Forget about coming off of COVID, because that was astronomical, going from 0 to something. But after COVID, 30% a year. You know, that'll slow down, of course, as the business continues to mature, but we need to make the building more efficient so that the Market House business itself, as well as the vendors that we supervise or have in the building, I should say, are able to, you know, continue to grow even with the constraints of the building. So significant investments needed. And I think that this lease, the proposed lease with the red lines, you know, help to address that in a favorable way for everybody.
Well, thank you. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because I think this is not the venue to negotiate a lease.
Yeah.
But I do have one last question for you, right along the lines of what you all are talking about. Some of the other leases that the city has, we very explicitly, I'm thinking of the Maritime Museum lease, we very explicitly write in that the conditions are that the entity do certain upgrades. And we don't want to prescribe too much, but I just wonder how you all think about that. If the goal here is to give certainty so that those investments can be made, how do you all think about spelling out what those investments would be within the lease?
We really want to make upgrades to the property, both inside and outside. We want that in a big way. We're held back now because of the uncertainty of the future, right? If we had certainty of the future, we're all in. And I think that's a great idea. I think that's a win-win for everybody. It's a win for the city residents. It's a win for the city financially, and it would be a win for our business and the future of the business. And it's all about just maintaining a stable business in the future. And I think we'll be great stewards of the property and the concept, but we just need to make sure that we have some financial clarity and stability in the future.
Okay.
And maybe I could just add too is, you know, we want to be here 20 years from now, right? So, you know, to not have some fixed costs going forward and some visibility in a longer term lease. An 8-year lease, people might go, oh, that's so far away. It really isn't. In 2 years, we're going to be back here negotiating a new lease. So it, 7 years, whatever. And, you know, built into our lease already is this administrative extension, which gives us like unlimited extensions every 5 years. You might say that's great, all right? But that means we have to come back and we're incumbent upon future administrations, all right, for our livelihood, right? And I'm, you know, at a certain point in my career that I want to see this through and I want to be here 20 years from now, right? So I think we've demonstrated that we're good stewards with the city's property. We've demonstrated that we've done everything the city has asked. We've created the living room option for residents and visitors alike. We deserve to be treated like Watermark. We deserve to be treated like the Boat Show. We deserve to be treated like other leases that the city has that have long-term visibility. There's a reason why the Boat Show came here and wanted to get their lease extended into the 2040s. They need that visibility. You know, we don't mind coming with reporting and meeting that threshold of investment of $250,000 over the next 10 years or whatever it says in the lease, because we constantly are upgrading. A refrigerator breaks down every other month. I mean, it's like, it's constant. And I think you have to remember, you know, restaurants are not, they're not gold mines by any means. They require very strict management, which we have with Michelle, who's overlooking all of our food costs. And it really comes down to like straws and papers, you know, like napkins, like it's percentages, right? And we could say, oh, we're doing great and things are going to be great going into the future, but there's no guarantee of any of that, right? So, I mean, you know, I think having a longer term lease and it just builds us up and sets us up for a better chance of success. And without that, there's a lot of insecurity and unknowns. And, you know, even 8 years from now, who knows what, you know, what administrations will be here. We hope you guys are all here and everybody's the same.
That makes
all good. But people do move on and people, you know, move on. So we'd like to get this over the finish line right now. We believe we can. And, you know, just to echo what Keith said, you know, we want to be that, we don't want $50 crab cakes. We don't want to be nickel and dime so that everything increases and escalates yearly. And we're out there selling $50 crab cakes just to make our rent to pay for the city. You guys have the option right now, and then I'll be quiet, to set the city up for success, set us up for success with local entrepreneurs and residents who have been in the city and in Anne Arundel County mostly their entire lives. All right. And so if we want to see corporations come in that don't honor local entrepreneurs or local residents and keep local people engaged in downtown businesses, which is what our community is, then you know, let this slip, and then we'll come back 2 years from now and have the same fight all over again. And it just seems like a lot of energy's been spent already. We can get this over the finish line. We can come to a compromise, and then nobody has to come back and revisit this for a little while. I do worry, you know, some of the changes that have been made, you know, involve mutual consent, and we're okay with that, I think. So, but I do worry that sets us up for maybe another fight in the future. And so we want to get back to doing the business of supporting downtown and not making it hard for the city and everybody else. So that's all I'll say right now.
Thanks. Glad we could have you guys here today and give your perspective on it. Alderwoman O'Neill, you got anything?
I'm good.
Alderwoman Finlayson? No? Nothing?
Good, thank you.
All right. Well, I think we, at the last meeting, suggested some sort of parameters for the apolitical staff, I guess Vicky, whoever those apolitical staff are, to go back and work with you guys on that. I don't think anyone sitting up here felt like we absolutely have to have this one thing or we absolutely have to have this other thing. We tried to give some areas to negotiate on, and I look forward to getting an update at our next meeting.
Could I ask, have you guys seen the updated lease that came to us yesterday and some of the parameters in it? Do you know what's in it?
I have not seen the most recent red line version.
We have not sent that to them because that's obviously we're still in discussion. But what we have done is taken that list of items, referenced other existing leases that the city has,
Mm-hmm.
and put together a proposal that we felt was a good faith reflection of those items in terms of how would that actually look. And then at that point, that's a discussion for us to have.
And I'll say, frankly, I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I don't think it is in the city's best interest for us to have 8 aldermen at a negotiating table. I want the apolitical staff who have the expertise to it, and then our job is to come in and have oversight over that. So that's good with me.
Yeah. I, for one, just want to let you know, we're going to get over the finish line. We're going to try to make some compromises. I hope that whoever we're talking to can see that too. There were a few changes that we want to address, but for the most part, I think we're going to get there. And it's important for us to get there October 15th and make this happen because, again, the future is unknown, right? So we want
Thank you,
some
guys.
security. Thanks.
All right. Well, I think we then need a motion to postpone this again. So is there a motion to postpone 03325 to the October 15th Finance Committee meeting?
I move to postpone 03325.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you guys again for being here.
Thank you for
Mr.
taking
Chair,
this.
could we make it clear that we do expect to make a decision at that meeting as opposed to postponing it again? So that all information that's necessary will be at hand for us prior to that meeting so that we can make a decision.
Yeah, I believe we'll have to at that meeting, right? That's our last meeting of this term. So yes, absolutely.
And could I just add, would it be helpful if we came to the Friday meeting too, if we talked between now and then, or is it really just about the October 15th meeting?
Friday is rules.
I would invite you to rules because we are going to have a discussion. Most different people on rules and economic matters, at least 2 other people. So if possible, I think it might be beneficial.
Great. It's at 1 o'clock, so I can make sure I'll be there and answer any questions that we might have. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, moving on, R3325. Well, I gotta say, I don't know where our budget manager is, but I'm a little disappointed on this one. We went from $1 million to $1.4 million down to $66,000. So what changed the numbers? Captain Miguez, maybe you can help us find out.
So I think I can answer part of that. The initial data that we were working from actually didn't intrinsically differentiate and identify what were the specific speeds on each road segment. So we had made some assumptions about some uniformity, and which changed what categories different ones went into. So that was part of why we had gone back and do a scrub with the police to make sure that we knew exactly how many fell into what category. And one of those in particular changed quite a bit. Yep.
There was also duplication of data that we received from the vendor of a location. So there was a summary of all the locations that was included. So if you look at the total incident on both of the fiscal notes, you'll see that it doubled.
Right.
So there was two effects, and they turned out to be substantial.
Yeah, it's funny enough, it's not exactly doubled. It's almost exactly. That's even weirder. But, well, I mean, I think the legislation is good either way, but I will say this is kind of it's not as good as we thought it would be. So yeah, I'm still a little confused how we went from thinking there were 10,377 incidents in which someone was traveling 20 to 29 miles per hour over the speed limit down to just 88. Besides the duplication point, what happened?
The data that we were given from our vendor did not have the same categories that were in the legislation. So we had to really break out, without knowing the exact speed, we had to break it out into categories. And then it turns out we looked at the data that the police department had and broke it down into the way that the legislation actually is written. It just changed the category.
Got it. Okay. Captain Miguez, anything else you think we need to know about this?
No, the data that they provided was good. It just, like they said, instead of listing a speed range the car was going over the posted speed limit, it actually posted the speed of the vehicle.
Oh,
So
okay. This
when you,
makes sense.
yeah,
now.
so when you had
Okay.
a range of 42 or say 52 to 65, that would be for a road that had a speed limit of 40, a certain category, whereas if it was a road that had a speed limit of 30, it'd be a completely higher category.
Got it. And because we have some of our speed cameras are on Forest Drive where it's
Yes.
40 and some are on 30, a place where it's 30. We were assuming it was more like the 30, and in fact, most of them were the Forest Drive. That
Yes, and then they
explains it.
didn't parse out those higher levels. So when you see the categories not having any incidents in them, that's not necessarily the case. We just know there's a group of violations in that this and above category. And so we don't know exactly if they're in that first category or if they're in a higher category. Because theirs just was it topped out faster than the state limits. So so we were able to get more categories with the roads that had lower speed limits, because then the higher speeds were the higher categories. And those, just for an example, on Chinkapin Round Road, in the 20 to 29 mile per hour and up, basically, category, that only accounted for 2.65% of the total violations in 2024, a total of 59 violations overall for the whole year that went that third category or higher. So they were either the third, fourth, or fifth. 59. So and that was the most actually of those lower speed limit roads, Hilltop and Cedar Park. Hilltop had 27 of those categories, total violations for the year, and Cedar Park only had 2.
Got it. But so we should, it's fair to assume that some of these 88 under the 20 to 29 mile per hour category would actually be in 30 to 39 or 40 or more.
Yeah,
not
probably a
many,
very
but-
small amount, but yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's that. All right. Well, boy, you just explained it all to me. All right. I'm good.
And our total number of violations has gone down every year.
Right.
So they gave us data from 22 to 24, 2022 to 2024. And in 2022, our total citations were 6,951. So you can see 2024, it goes down to a total of 3,493 incidents. So the speed cameras are having an effect of bringing down the total number of people speeding. So the more
I'm sorry.
know-
You want to say that again for the record?
it shows. Now we'd have to do a whole scientific review of this, but it appears that the speed cameras are effective on the areas where we have them, which is why I'm glad that we're able to look at expanding the ones that we have. And hopefully we'll see the same things on those roads.
That's great. Wow. I love to hear that. All right. That's all for me. Anybody else got any questions on this one?
Mr. Chair, I don't have a question, but the chart that's attached to Granicus is not the one you're referring to. It's not the updated chart with the updated numbers.
Ms. Jackson says she sent it to you by email. We have
Okay.
it in paper here, but you should have it in your email.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll be replacing what's on Granicus with this new data.
Yeah.
Somebody will.
Someone will. Ms. Moran, we'll put that on you and Mr. Trudeau. Or, I'm told it's actually Cynthia's job. All right. Thank you. Well, with that, now that we have all the data to the extent that we can get it, is there a motion to approve R3325? Or to favorably recommend, I should say.
I'll make a motion to favorably recommend R3325.
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Beautiful. Happy to make sure that we're keeping our roads safe. Love it. Thanks for being here, Captain Migas. Okay. We got another, I'll call this old business on R4125. So this was a little bit messy at our last meeting where we were trying to figure out how we split it out the parade from the game, and then we were also trying to figure out how we make sure that we are fully accounting for the costs of the parade. So, Ms. Buckland, you got an update for us?
Yeah, the amendment that is there on behalf of the Finance Committee looks appropriate. It focuses on the game is really a separate thing. The parade is where the past waivers clearly have been focused. So this would make that explicit, and then would update this to reflect what the city's costs were last year.
Seems to work for me.
So we're increasing from 15.
Yeah, because it was more than 15.
And we're going to waive all of it. I thought it was a waiver of up to 15.
So the way it's written is that we would waive up to 15. But the kind of conversation we were having last time was that we wanted to waive the total cost. And so to do that, we needed to up it to 20,000.
Yeah, if
But
I
that's a
may,
policy choice.
the first time that these were done, the 15,000 was a reflection of the city's actual costs. But in the intervening years, those costs have risen, but the waiver amount has not. So if the intention was to cover the full amount, the way that that did the first time the council considered this, we would need to up that to cover the current costs. And last year it was about 20,000.
Alderman Finlayson, any questions?
No, actually, I'll make a motion that we give a favorable recommendation to Amendment 1.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. And then is there a motion to give a favorable recommendation to R4125 as a whole?
I'll make the motion that we give a favorable recommendation to R41 as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And I just want to thank the city staff for catching that and making sure that, well, I think we all know what we want to do, but making sure that the legislation actually says it is very important. So glad to hear that. Last thing, well, no, second to last thing we have on the agenda is an update on the market space lease. I think there's probably not any significant update to this, right? We're really going to hear it at the meeting is on the 15th, and Economic Matters is actually going to get the update after that because the meeting's happening during or after the Finance Committee meeting. Anything else to add? No, nothing new.
Did you remove?
Mr. Chair, did we skip R37?
Oh, sorry, it's not on my agenda.
It's on
What is-
Granica.
The fees and fines related to regulation of tours and historic matters.
One moment. Oh, sorry, it doesn't have a name. Missed it. Yeah, weird. We might have to postpone action on that because I can't access anything related to it.
I can help clarify.
Sure, that would be great. Thank you.
Cynthia Reuter, Office of Law Policy Analyst. That bill has not been introduced before the council yet. It should not be on the agenda.
That would explain.
R36.
Oh yeah, we're good. It hasn't been introduced. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. So we cannot consider it because it has not been introduced. So market space lease discussion is where we are. All right, let me just get back to it. I don't think there's anything new on that, is what we just said. I did get an inquiry this morning, Ms. Buchan, because we had that legislation, was that last night? No, Monday night, about the flea market, and with pushing that back into November, we're still, the sense is that market space is going to be able to continue through the end of November, correct? I know at one point we were talking about it ending on October 15th.
I believe that is the case. There,
Okay.
I will follow up with you.
Yeah, I also believe it's the case. I just wanted to confirm, but that's fine. Unless anybody has anything else on this, I'm happy to just, we shouldn't even have it on our next agenda because we won't have an update then. All right. Last thing is an update from the finance department.
No changes from the last update. We obviously budget's wrapped up. We're working on the budget to actuals for council, and we're in the thick of the audit, which we're on target to be done the end of the fiscal year or the end of the calendar year, which is good. We are going to New York next week for our bond
Exciting.
meeting. So fingers crossed and wish us luck. So we're preparing for that and think it should go well.
Good. I had a question for you while we're talking about the finance department. So I was digging into our previous comprehensive financial reports, and they, of course, differ significantly from what we budget, right? It will say, I mean, just as an example, FY24 was $121 million of expenditures within the comprehensive financial report, and the budget was something like 180 million. I forget the exact number, but significantly higher. Could you help me understand better? And the public understand better why we tend to see such a big discrepancy. We would expect some, right? We know like, well, like this year, the police department had a $1.6 million surplus. So like we'd expect to see that. But why does it seem to be like as much as 50% of a difference between what those expenditures seem to be on the ACFR and what we budget for?
I'd have to look at the year specifically as to what you're speaking on, but I know I'm working on the FY25 for the bond rating, and it's not as big of a difference as you're seeing. There are some accounting differences between budgetary accounting and gap rules, or the depreciation and all of those things are not recorded in the same way that we budget for them. Also, the actuals and what you see in the ACFR, it doesn't take into consideration the what is the word? Encumbrances. So when we encumber things for things that have been budgeted, but you're not going to see that reflected, those are actuals based on the expenditure year. So there are timing differences. There are differences in the basic accounting. So I don't know that looking at the ACFR would really be the best. There is a part in the ACFR that shows like budget to actuals, but there are some things like reconciling differences. So I know for FY25 for the general fund, we budget to use reserves also. So where we really will see the net difference is how much of those reserves we end up using. So sometimes revenues will come in higher, lower, whatever it is. But I think a good measure to look at is how much of our reserves actually are going to dip into that year. And it varies year to year. We have vacancies in a lot of departments. This year for FY25, we're seeing close to $3 million in savings just in public service. So it's going to vary.
Did you mean public safety?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, public safety. I was like, we're all
Public
public
service.
service. Yeah.
Sorry, like just OEM fire and.
Right. And then my other question along those lines as I've been reading these is, if we're trying to compare apples to apples and looking at city budgets over time, is it most appropriate to do that through the ACFRs, or is it better to do it through the city budget? Let me put it this way. We're trying to look between 17 and 24. I was going to make a more complicated metaphor than I need to. Suffice it to say, what's the best way to compare apples to apples? Is it with the ACFRs or is it with the budgets?
It depends who you ask. I think the budget is the best way to look at it, the full approach, because the ACFR does include things like we budget for things that you're not going to see in the CAFR. There's a lot more reconciling. So I think the way that we budget, it would be better to look at a budget first.
But that sounds to me like you're saying about like more individual line items. That's true. But would it still be true also for the top line, or was I misunderstanding? Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Thank you. The other reason I asked you, because I know like our budget books just look very different between now and 5 years ago. And I know certainly over the last 8 or 10 years, there's been some changes how we do that accounting. So I'm just trying to make sure that I have the best way of explaining to constituents how city budgets have changed over time, how city spending has changed over time. All right, that's all I got.
And if there's something in particular, if you want to see a chart that you're not seeing in the ACFR or the budget book, we'd be happy to pull something together. We have tons and tons of detail. So
cool. Thank you.
If I may, if you're going back that far, and Alderman Finlayson, I'll ask you to weigh in with your experience over that time. My impression has been that the city's made a number of changes to how it approaches some financial questions, and some things that the city did in the past. That has changed over time. Kind of what gets included in the budget discussion and stuff. So to Brittany's point, I think that depending upon what your what it is you're interested in, you might turn to one or the other, depending upon what question you're trying to answer, because there have been some changes over time to how the city approaches budgeting. Alderwoman Finlayson, would you say that that's fair?
I would definitely say that's fair. And I think in large part, it has depended on the finance director and the approach, because each one, and I've probably lived through 5 finance directors at this point, have all had a different approach to budgeting. And some far more conservative, I'll say, than others. Using the police department's budget, for example, we have always carried considerable, I don't want to say surplus, but additional revenue in that department to be able to accommodate the need to fill vacancies and respond to emergencies. Those things don't actually show up all the time in our budget, even though it does show up in the independent department's budget. But, and I'm not sure I'm answering your question, Ms. Buckland, but I would say that if there have been changes, and there have been, definitely, it's based on the approach that the finance director chooses to take.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's part of what I was trying to get at. Like, which changes less as we have different finance directors? Does the ACFR change less, or does the budget change less? And what I'm hearing is maybe it's a little bit of both, depending on what you're looking at. Yeah, okay.
May I add, we used to rely heavily on getting a CAFR, which was the budget document that kind of justified everything. And that in the last couple of 2 or 3, 4 years maybe has changed to a different type of document. And so even the reporting of it and the tracking of dollars has changed. So, some reconciliation might be important between the 2 types of documents that we're receiving.
Thank you. All right. Anybody got anything else to discuss as part of the finance department update? No? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Madeline.